Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. Today, I have an awesome guest. He is a Your Empire buyer's agent, partnerships and alliances connector, networking master, and co-host of the Lifestyle Pirates podcast. He has over 18 years experience in the payments industry, is now developing new alliances and partnerships for Your Empire buyers agents, and is the co-founder of Bio Australia, the networking group that do networking a little differently. Welcome, Jonathan Sermon, and thank you for being on my show.
Mate, thank you very much. What an introduction. I'm exhausted just by listening to that. But mate, you made me sound like a hero. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me to come on the show. Looking forward to it.
You're very welcome, mate. I love my intros. I hear a lot of different things about the energy from them. So that's one of my awesome things. And it's so awesome to have you here as well, mate. I'm sure it's going to be huge amounts of value for everyone watching and listening. And as we get started, you're very successful at what you do. So for those people who don't know who you are, just please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Sure. Okay. Wow. I hope everyone's sitting comfortably. So you probably get from my accent, I'm from the UK. Originally, I moved over to Australia in 2010. With my wife, who's an Australian. So we have a bit of a joke because we met and married in the UK in the GFC, and I said that all investors have an exit strategy. So we moved to Australia. That was funny, but 14 years later on, she's no longer laughing at the joke. But no, I guess a little bit about me. I just love helping people. I think for me, the hats that you've mentioned, they all have a commonality where they're bringing people together, their experiences. They're telling stories and ultimately helping people. So I guess to take a step right back, if we go back to the Mother Isle, as it were, my parents were always doing events. They were always doing dinner parties, always had friends over. They were big into experiences for the kids and for their friends as well. So, I was the youngest of four. I am the youngest of four. And it was kind of, mum and dad would get some friends over, and I'd take the coats upstairs to the room, for the guests, that kind of stuff. So I was always kind of hosting something. I'd make sure the drinks were topped up, even though I wasn't even old enough to drink them. So I became very comfortable around people, and I guess around adults. And I also I was encouraged to partake. It wasn't a kind of sit in the corner, picture but no sound. I was always involved in the conversation and encouraged to ask questions and things. So I think, for me, that's where it really comes from. And I guess that's where that bio piece comes to. And I'll come back to that, no doubt, later on. But I guess the business acumen side, again, comes from my dad. He's had his own business for north of 30 years, a very simple business doing commercial vehicle spares in the UK. But again, putting people together, solving problems, always trying to help people outside of that kind of core business that he did. So I just got influenced very early on through, events, hosting people, and then the kind of business relationships before LinkedIn and before we even invented a meme. And that's probably what got me into those two worlds. From an education standpoint, I did a marketing management degree. Pretty simple theory. My theory was every company needed marketing. So why not do a marketing degree? So I did that for 3 years in the UK. And then fell into a job really after my degree, doing foreign exchange payments. So it was a company called Hailwood International. They no longer exist now. They got bought out by a company called XE. But that was in essence my step into that corporate sales world, doing FX transfers. And I remember joining. The interview process was quite an interesting one because we spoke for about an hour. And the chap said, look, I really appreciate the chat, but I've not even told you what we do. But I can't teach you to have a conversation with a stranger like we've just done, but I can teach you really quickly what we do. So I ended up getting the job there. So I've always done sales. I've always done partnerships and relationships. And I guess genuinely tried to help people.
Yeah.
Do you want me to carry on?
It's up to you, mate. That was awesome. Powerful there. If you want to share anything more, otherwise we can get into it.
Oh, mate, let's get into it because I'm sure we'll circle back on some bits as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, powerful story and awesome. It's so interesting to hear, like, how our parents shape us, positively and negatively without them knowing sometimes. But, you being around those events and how that's, transpired now, into networking, connecting with people. And that's really where I do want to get stuck into today is about networking groups, right? And you are the co-founder of Bio Australia. And, initially, let's just go. So, tell us a bit about Bio Australia and how is it different, to other standard networking groups?
So with Bio, I guess Bio, the genesis was around, to put it crudely, was literally taking all the bits that I liked about a networking event and putting it into my own. So I guess taking my career has always been in partnerships. I found out very quickly that a lot of businesses have the same problems. A lot of individuals have the same problems. So I had that network kind of sewed up in the UK. When I moved from the UK to Australia, you've got a blank canvas. You don't know anyone. So I would go to, a friend of mine used to joke and say you'd go to the opening of an envelope, but that was actually true, because when you move over to the other side of the world, you've got no one, you've got to start again. So whilst I had a job, and that job was actually at a company called OFX, so it used to be called Oz4X. So again, in that foreign exchange space, working in partnerships, you were exposed to lots and lots of different people that all had the same problem. So I would go to lots and lots of networking events to build my book, to build my network. And you come across the same challenges over and over again, especially in the expat community. So what I would do was I'd go to Chambers of Commerce events. I'd go to BNIs. I'd go to expat only events. Like literally, there wasn't a week that went by where I probably didn't go to two in my first few years here, just to kind of get a bit of a cadence and momentum. And then I started to basically work out which ones I liked. And that could be because of the kind of canapes they had. It could be because of the audience that were there. It could be where it was hosted as well. So you just get a sense for, I'm going to go here because that's a really good audience, or that's a little bit more aligned with my network and who I want to hang out with. So networks for me is very important, where you've always got to be learning. It's the old adage, if you know too much, if you're not learning from anyone in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Like, you should always be learning. And I guess for me, I was always trying to flip it and going, what value can I add to these people, but how can they help me with the questions that I get asked in my 9 to 5, as it were. So, whether it's around recruitment, whether it's around finance, whether it's around a money transfer, whether it's around an accountant. So very quickly you go, cool, I've actually got to align myself with these people. Then I can solve these problems for my clients and for their clients and their network. And then you kind of become the connector, as it were. But the value, you've got to be very genuine with what you're trying to do. It's not just a kind of farming leads and all that kind of stuff, because then that starts to affect your personal brand. But that's the kind of genesis of Bio, and was basically taking those bits, and then I would procure kind of who was in the room. So to make sure that people were getting the maximum value, that it was a safe space to talk. We've all been to, I'm sure you've been to loads of events where there's 10 business coaches in the room. You can't really have a good conversation with people when your competitors are around you. We've all been to events where perhaps, people will give you a business card before they've even said anything. And you go, well, I don't even know your name, but they're just trying to give you a business card. So it's just around procuring who's in the room, making sure that people can add value. And then actually doing a bit of a round robin. I think this is where Zoom was actually quite good, because when you had lots of people on the screen, you could do a kind of who's who in the zoo and making sure everybody knows who's on the screen. We try and do that again with Bio as well, because we want to make sure that people know who's in their community and what they do, but also who knows them as well, because that's where you get the real power. And I guess one of the differentiators as well is connecting people through experiences. This probably goes back to my heritage. My mum and dad were very big into experiences, going to the theatre, going out, nothing too tangible when it came to presents. It was always doing something, but they were always the things you remembered. So for me, I always found that I would meet someone at an event, and when I would follow them up, or whether I'd kind of circle back and say, Athin, great to meet you last night. on the boat or on the golf course or at the whiskey tasting or something, you've got that commonality straight away in that phone call, rather than just going, hi, we didn't talk about business. What should we be doing? We should be working with each other. Do you know what I mean? So with Bio, we try and bring people together through experiences, through learning, because already then they have a shared commonality that they can then use that to then go ahead and build their relationships on the back of that.
Yeah, love that, mate. Really powerful, and loved how you, brought in a lot of, your story into that as well. Really powerful. And, I'll say I am part of Bio, right? And it is an amazing community, right? And what you have built there. And, I think it's a testament to you and to what you do. And, on that, I guess, what's interesting about Bio, which I like as well, is that it's not just for business owners. It's not like we're just a business owner group. It's actually for people who just love their roles and the businesses they work for as well. It's open, for connection to people. So do you want to maybe tell a little bit more about that and how that, I guess, changes the dynamics of the group as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it kind of comes back to me. So I started it. I was an employee. But again, would love to go to a networking event, and a lot of people would go, "Wow, you go to all these events, but you know lots of people." One of my mantras: if you don't go, you don't know. So, but that's how you also get to meet people. You'd get this as well. Entrepreneurs, real business happens before breakfast and after work, right? So it's not in 9 to 5. It's outside of those hours. So people have got to see you working as hard as they do. So when I thought about it, I was like, well, there's a lot of communities out there, and these aren't bad communities, but they just focus on fintech, or just focus on entrepreneurs, or just focus on men or women. And I was like, well, actually, or small business, is another one. And I thought, well, actually, if we can get everybody in the room that's open to being there, then there's going to be better conversations as well. Because as an employee, I want to meet a CEO and a CFO, or a founder, or an entrepreneur, or someone that's sold their business. Or I might just want to speak to a fellow employee, vent, but then learn what he or she is going through and go, actually, oh, I thought it was just me going through this, but actually that's how it works. Or you might want to sound something off with a business owner that you know, like, and trust, that you can have a safe conversation as an employee. And it flips as well. You might get a business owner that goes, hey, I'm looking to roll this out to my staff. What do you think? So just, again, it creates a nice equal playing field. You lose the hierarchy because everybody is there that wants to be there. So, the connotations around Bio is everybody's got a story. But also, once we invite people to come along, we actually then invite them to join if we think they're a good fit. And part of that, and you would have gone through this experience, is we ask you to fill out an application form. Not only what will you bring to the community, but what do you want from it as well? Because we want to make sure that people get value. So, some people just say, I want this to be my monthly networking event. I want this to be my community. Some of our members, they want to do a deal. They want an introduction, and that's all great as well. So we try and be quite clear on what are you going to bring to it? What do you want from it? And then let's help you facilitate that too. So that's why we've tried to make it open as well. And that's reflected in, obviously, the membership and I think the conversations that have happened so far as well.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And yeah, I think that's a really powerful way to do it, where it's, invitation only, and you put people through that process, because then you can really see, are these people a great fit, for everyone in there, right? Because, everyone can't do everything. And, we don't want to put, like you said, 10 people of the same people in the room necessarily. We want to have a cultural fit, values fit, as well as, everybody helping each other out. So I really love that. So let's talk a little bit about events, right? And you do a whole different types of events. So do you want to maybe talk just a few of the different types of event that you host that, that probably maybe a little bit different than, instead of just the boat, or something like that, which might happen once a year, which is always nice to go to, of course. But I
did notice you've RSVP'd to that event already.
That's it. It's like one of those nice things. Sydney Harbour, right? You can sit in the background. It's nice if you're all over the world. It's one of the best harbours in the world, I think. So you've got to enjoy it when you can, right?
Mate, it's a great canvas. We're very, very lucky. And look, being a POM, I have to pinch myself sometimes when we're out on the harbour doing some laps. It's incredible experience. But again, I guess how did we come about? So With Bio, it's a monthly event. So there's a little bit of science towards it. So when I first moved over here, I love my music. I'm not known for being an athlete anymore, so I love my music. And a way for me to meet people, and my wife and I to meet people, was actually, we started off a music night. So we called it digital therapy. And again, you start off with about 10 people in the room. And then after 6 years, we'd have 400 or 500 people in the room. We hosted some stages at festivals, and it was a great time. What we did, though, we set up a cadence so that the event was the first Saturday of every month. So everyone knew that they'd left the event, and then the next one would be a month later on. So we had that regular cadence, which was one of the things that we took to Bio. So Bio is the second Thursday of every month. The reason it's a second Thursday is because the first week is normally month end for our kind of bookkeepers and accountants and people in finance. That second week tends to be a little bit flat for people. Then you've got month end coming towards and everything. So there's a reason behind it. It's a second Thursday. Thursday as well. Some people, depending on what we do, it's a good night if people working from home on a Friday. So I think we've got like a champagne experience with Pommery, or a whiskey tasting experience. Or we did the experience with Liars as well. So we did non-alcoholic drinks. Or if we've got other experiences too. So we have it on a Thursday, so people don't go too hard, or if they do, they can work from home on the Friday. But that tends to be a nice day of the week to have the vibes on as well. And then what we try and do is we set it up with what our members are asking for. So we did a survey in COVID, just saying what are we struggling with at the moment. Mental health came up quite a lot. Health and well-being in terms of just general fitness, because people weren't moving. So we did an online boot camp. One of our members who owns a gym very kindly did an online boot camp just to get us moving and a bit of fun, right? So we try and pair up the education stuff with what our members do, because it gives them the opportunity to showcase to the room and some guests, but also what our members need as well. And then from the experience side, and again, this just plays to my heritage, this is where we like to support other businesses like breweries or wineries, or non-alcoholic drinks companies, or one of our partners is Oscar Hunt Tailors, so they'll give us the showroom for an evening. We're speaking to Mulberry Handbags as well, again another English brand, and we're going to be hosting something in their store as well. So again, just to have a bit of a different experience outside of an office or your traditional networking environment, because that's again where the kind of gold happens. The guards get let down, and people can really just be themselves, which is what we're trying to be.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love that. And I just want to delve deeper, because you talked a little bit about COVID there, right? And obviously COVID's changed a lot of things, especially for networking groups, right, where we couldn't see people in person. So do you want to maybe talk about how you had to pivot during COVID, and maybe the differences that you found on your end, and maybe the feedback and everything like that between, I guess the pros and cons, let's call it, right, of in person, which I think probably everybody loves, but there was probably also some pros as well from, doing online events and things there as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of my findings, as the host, when we're face to face, I miss the theatre of an event. I'll introduce myself at the start of the night. I'll introduce our speakers. We'll do a quick round the room so everyone knows who's who in the zoo, as it were. And then I will go around throughout the night and make sure people are okay. I'll try and facilitate some introductions, certainly with some of the guests or some of the newer members that don't know each other. Because we've got a mixture of extroverts and introverts, and just because you rock up in a salmon jacket and a pocket square doesn't mean you're comfortable talking to everybody. So you've got to make sure everyone's comfortable. So I certainly miss the theatre, and I guess the facilitation of introductions in COVID, because we ran our events online. I think where we were very lucky though is that we have some members where their content can be consumed very easily online. So we had Dan Murray from Empathic Consulting, who did a fantastic workshop where he did some profiles of our members. We had a bit of fun with it. I think he wanted to show off his new software as well when he was doing presentations, but it was great. And I think a lot of people got a lot from that. And for that, I don't know if you remember, we encouraged our members to support local business. So we gave them, virtual cards with DiviPay. So we partnered with DiviPay on that. So everyone could get a takeaway to support their local takeaway on bio, and then we're supporting Dan through telling his story and doing, I guess, one of his workshops. Last year in COVID-1, we had Nick Dogulan doing a talk around digital marketing and what he does, because again, what we found was a lot of companies would stop their marketing, whereas you and I know that you should still be continuing that anyway, because then people will remember that when we do come out of COVID. So some of the events helped us very easily transition online, but me personally, I miss the theatre. Like I really enjoy, I get my energy from people's energy. I think you're the same as well. So you can't get that body language, when you're on the screen. And I think people forget how to converse when they're on the screen. So you can't read the cues around, I'm going to stop talking now so you can jump in.
Yeah.
You can jump in.
No pun intended. So love it, mate. Really powerful there. And you've done awesome, in those periods of time and what you've done with us. Keep everybody engaged and really still supporting everyone. And now that, we're opening up now out of lockdown and in Sydney, it's fun times ahead back to normality and connecting in person, which is always best because we do crave connection there. So let's go a little bit wider now from just bio, right? Because I know that you're part of multiple networking groups, right? It's not like, as much as I love bio, there's, we want to sort of, get different things potentially from other groups as well and to connect to more people. So if we're wanting to go out there and go to a new networking group, whether that's bio or somewhat, another type of group, what should we look for, do you think, when we're joining a networking group? That's
a really good question. I think you've got to look for who you're looking to hang out with. So I guess depending on your role as well. So me in partnerships and sales, I guess, where do my ideal clients and referral partners hang out? And if that's in the foreign exchange world, if that was an Aussie British chamber, then there's a natural kind of propensity for those members to want to do a money transfer. So you would hang out in those places. If you're in the tech world, you might hang out in some of the tech world, in some of the tech networking groups, some of the meetups as well. So I think you've got to look at, one, where's your ideal client? Two, who do you want to hang out with as well? Because don't forget, as we said earlier, networking you're doing before and after work. So you've got to enjoy it. All right. So what are the communities where you're going to get value, but be able to give value? So for example, I'm still a member of BNI. I've been a member for 7 years. BNI, for those that aren't across it, is a global networking community, very granular, very accountability focused. You meet weekly, and it's all about basically passing referrals. But if you're a small business and you're looking to grow, it's actually a great way of joining and becoming a member, because you've then got another 10 or 20, members that are actively trying to find you referrals and business. So therefore you don't have to hire any salespeople initially, because you've kind of got that as a byproduct. If you're looking to perhaps get funding and raise capital, you could perhaps go to some of the Antler events that are in Sydney too. So it's looking at, what do you want to get from it, and the community, is it right for what you're trying to get from it, but also, can you add value? So I always, as I said earlier, I always flip it and go, well, how can people that I meet add value to my world? I'm big on adding value, and I think because working in something as simple as money transfers and now property, all those clients will go through the very similar thing. So if I can solve those problems, I can then help them with their transfer. I can help them with their property purchase. So that's one of my mantras, is always looking to add value rather than, take. What can I give?
Yeah, love that, mate. Great points. And I'll reiterate about adding value, right? And this is especially, for really successful people. Like if you want to get in contact with someone that's very successful, right? Like, at a very high level, it's always like, how can we add value first? because these successful people, it's like they come across people all the time, and they're not necessarily going to be connecting you to people, initially, because they, obviously at a certain level, unless you add value. So I'll definitely reiterate that point. It's not only to get something out of it, you go just to add value, right? But then, eventually, when you keep adding value to people, they're going to want to reciprocate, right? In different ways. So it's just a natural thing. So I love that, mate.
And mate, with the question to you, like, where do you hang out? What other networking communities do you go to?
You know what? To me, I actually haven't been to too many. Like I went out to a BNI, but a lot of them were quite full with my role, right? Because with a BNI, it's one person, right, for everything. So if you're if you're a business coach, and there's a lot of different types of business coaches, right, of course, but if your particular thing is full, then so it's a bit of a timing thing, I think. And I actually didn't know about BNI until recently, so I was sort of outside of that. But outside of that, I've been to some Chamber of Commerce events there, and I think there's some value in those, that they're getting quite large. And I guess it's sort of fallen a bit on the wayside during COVID for the last 18 months or so, where, I've really just stuck with bio, in that period of time when we, got connected and was part of that, which has been awesome. But I guess, for me, I think there's, potentially in meetup groups, I think meetup, is a bit sort of, there can be some, powerful events that people are putting on in there as well. So to have a look at certain things that might come there, and maybe adding some pages that might have some things as well, because you never know. Like even like Eventbrite, is a big platform here in Australia, at least, where there's a lot of events that go on there. So I think just being on there, and I'm a little bit more, let's call it, based on my instincts, where I make decisions. So I'll see if something pops up to me. Right. Like that's how it happens, where I'll see it if an event pops up, and if it tickles, like, oh, what's that? That sounds interesting. I'll look into it, and then I'll be like, make the decision, I'm going. So that's how I've sort of gone to a lot of events, in different areas, and then determined whether, do I want to stay around this, with whoever's hosting it, or is it just sort of, one-time things multiple times whenever they do them. So that's sort of how I work. But I think, I see a lot of value in doing a lot of multiple groups. I'm going to look at doing that coming forward once we get out of lockdown as well. Yeah.
Another one I just thought of as well, which sounds so obvious. If your clients invite you to an event, go. A lot of people would say, oh, why would I go? But if they've invited you, they want to show you off. They're going to be your best advocates when you turn up at that event. Here's John, the problem solver, or the property guy. Here's Athin, the great business coach, help my business go from X to Y in 6 months' time. They are going to be selling you to their community. It could be their staff, it could be their audience, it could be their network. They're the best events to go to as well. It's amazing how many people don't take the time to invest back in the relationship when they get invited to something, because you'll find if you say no too many times, the invites will soon dry up, because there's always going to be someone else that will take your place. So that was a thing I learned as well.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And just to reiterate, like, one of my coaches is worth multiple 9 figures. He always says, just say yes. Like, if you don't go to that thing, like, who could you have met? What deal could you have done? Who could you have been connected to? You never know, right? And sometimes you may have to get up early. Sometimes you may have to go to bed late because it's a nighttime event and potentially lose sleep. But you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm going to get less sleep, or it's a bit of a hassle or something. Go, you know what? You never know, right? It's a new experience. Just say yes, invest in yourself into that time, because, it could be that one thing that just unlocks, some amazing opportunities as well.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's why I've been very fortunate in the years of, attending conferences with partners, being invited out but actually, again, starting to then do my own little things. So, bio didn't just happen overnight. Bio was probably, although we've been going 2 years, there was probably 2 years of just doing, hey, there's going to be 4 of us get together for a beer on a Friday, but you'd make sure those 4 people could help each other. And it was a valuable connection. And then there was actually a few of those members where they were like, or not even members, a few of these people that said, you need to label this. This is cool what you do. So again, just that there's always little, you could all start somewhere, and that can just be as very simple as going, who do you need to meet? Like, who's in your network? Who's a good client for you? what are you going through at the moment? How can I help? Is there anything I can do? Because we don't know who knows who, and that's one of the most powerful things as well. That's actually, to be honest, that's where BNI is very good, because they encourage you to ask for your ideal client. And it's amazing how many times you can stand up and go, I want to meet Athin, the business coach. And they go, I know, Athin, I'll introduce you. And you go, great. But if you don't ask, you don't get. In the same way as if you don't go, you don't know.
Yeah, lovely. Awesome points, mate. And, you are a networking master, right? Like I've seen you're in your element, whether you're on stage or you're connecting people and all of that. So do you want to maybe just talk about what are some of the key considerations? And I want to talk about partnerships and alliances now, right? Because you've done a lot of that in your businesses and you're doing that now. So what are some of the key considerations that we should be mindful of when we're wanting to build partnerships and alliances for our business as well?
So one of my observations is the further you get away from the why, the harder it is to articulate the value proposition. So I'll give you an example. Working at your empire, so looking after the referral partners, we have a lot of mortgage brokers, we have a lot of family offices, lawyers, accountants, wealth advisors that very kindly introduce their clients to us that are interested in buying property for investment or as family homes. If you look at where they sit, where the client is, it's like literally next level. If I perhaps went to, so that I guess the influence there is quite strong. You're quite close to the client and then the buying decision, as it were. If I went and stood in Westfield Mall with a Your Empire banner and a desk with some pens and Chris loves to get out some the stubby holders, you're probably not going to get much value from that, because it's a really diluted audience where people might not even get it. So I would say, when you're looking at your referral partners, again, who touches your ideal clients? Where is your ideal audience? Going back to my point when I was in the money transfers, if you hang out in an expat community, there's going to be a natural propensity for them to be interested in your service because they should have to make or receive international payments. If you hang out with a load of Aussies that perhaps haven't traveled and have no aspiration to travel, they're not going to understand why a currency broker even exists. So it was easier to articulate the value proposition to one audience and not the other. So that's one of the things I would say is know who your ideal clients are and hang out where they hang out. But then also look for partnerships that are aligned with your brand values as well. It's very easy just to go volume, but actually the best partners are the ones that you're aligned, you're dealing with similar clients, you've got similar interests, similar ways of doing business. So there's a real natural fit rather than just trying to be everything to everybody. So I guess go narrow and deep rather than skim across the ocean. Yeah.
Awesome points, Matt. Love that. And you've recently changed industries, right? From being in the payments industry for over 18 years, right? Which is a fair stint. I did 10 and a half. Well, I've still been, something, my previous company there. And, now you're in property, right? Yeah. So you've been there for at least a few months now. And so I want to understand to you, how is the change going for you? Because that's a big step, number one, of changing industries. And then maybe also what can you share to other people who may be thinking of changing industry that they've been in for a while, as well?
Yeah. So you're bang on. Yeah, I've done 18 years in foreign payments. What I loved about that was it gave me a platform to be where I am today. When you think about it, it enabled me to move to Australia. It's enabled me to build a huge network of friends, advocates, referral partners, connections, just a huge network of people working in that place. For me, I just wanted to start having a different conversation. 18 years in one industry is a long time. What else is out there was my thinking. And I guess the transition to your empire was, I guess it was years in the making, to be honest, because I've known Chris and the team since about 2013. My wife and I have actually engaged your empire to buy some properties for us as well. So when we kind of sold up everything in the UK, brought the money over, $2 to the pound. Thank you very much, Aussie exchange rate. And then we put that into property. So we actually adopt that kind of rent vesting mentality. So to the untrained eye, probably looks like John's going through a bit of a midlife crisis, but we've always kind of toyed with, you should come work with us, you should come work with us. And I guess having a big network, when I left OFX, a lot of people came out of the woodwork and said, what happened? Why didn't you give me a call? We would have hired you in a heartbeat, which is a lovely place to be. But I guess you make that over the years. So when I then got offered the opportunity to look after the referral partners at Your Empire, I'd already been speaking with a lot of those people and that caliber of business or individual in my previous role. So the transition from the language wasn't too difficult. The product is, but because I've been a consumer already and been through it and already kind of advocated for them and introduced as and when I could, it's been quite an easy transition. I'm not actually on the selling side as of yet, so I'm not going and buying the property as of yet. That's up to the team. My role is, I guess, that conduit between the referral partner, speaking to the client, and then really seeing if we're a good fit. We're not for everybody in terms of where we buy. So we work with a client, we get a brief from them, and then we go and source something. We're not kind of shifting anything kind of shiny and new. We have a very different buying model. So I think the transition for me has been interesting. It's been seamless, but only because I've had a previous relationship with the team and the guys, so they kind of know who John is, and I know who the team are. That's definitely helped. I think for people that are looking to change, again, it goes back to the networking side of things. The more people you meet, the more you get exposed to different industries, different businesses, different ideas, and you can get a sense if that excites you, or if that's a good fit for you. So I'd say if people are, and we talk about the Great Resignation, apparently is going to be coming up in Australia in the next 6 months. I would say get out there now. If you're thinking of moving but don't know where, perhaps don't know how your skills are going to transition, or you don't know anyone, get out there, go to a few events, meet people, and start to just engage and say, well, that's really, really cool that you're in this startup business. That actually suits me down to the ground, or that doesn't, because I've come from a corporate of 200 people and I don't want to be one of 5 where everything's being looked at all the time. So networking has a lot of other benefits other than just business development. You get to learn a hell of a lot and see what's right or wrong for you. Because I get a sense that there'll be a lot of people at the moment, wanting change, because it's an employee's market at the moment, and it's about, are you changing for the right reason, or are you changing because you've been locked up and you've been managing a team on Zoom, or you've been managed on Zoom and you're over that experience, or do you want something else, because you've had time to pause and reflect and go, actually, I want the next 5-10 years of my life to be X, Y, and Z and not ABC. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. What an answer. That's really powerful. And what an amazing show today. So as we're wrapping up now, I guess one key piece of advice would you give to everyone watching and listening today?
I would say just be open to listening and meeting new people. Not everybody is going to be your best friend. Not everybody's going to be your best referrer. Not everybody's going to work. But unless you're open to connecting and having a conversation, be that 5 minutes, half an hour, 44 minutes, you're never going to know. When Sydney for me is a very small space, Australia is a small space, the world is becoming a very small space. So a lot of people are very, very heavily connected. So just be open to having a conversation, and adding value. Again, time is the only thing that we can't get back. It's a precious commodity. So if someone gives you their time, make sure you can add some value to that as well.
Awesome, mate. What's some amazing points there to round it off. Completely agree with that. So yeah, we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey from having over 18 years experience in the payment industry to now developing new alliances and partnerships for Your Empire buyers agents, co-hosting your awesome podcast, Lifestyle Pirates, which I was very grateful of being interviewed as well on there. You're doing some amazing things there. And, to now being the co-founder as well of Bio Australia, which is the networking group that do networking a little differently, as we have found out more detailed today. So you're an awesome guy. You're a great connector and always have everybody to have a great time in whatever they do. So I'm sure you'll continue to use your powerful skills to connect people in need. I'm very grateful that we connected. I'm part of Bio and I look forward to working with you in the future. So how can people find you, get in contact with you, Jonathan?
The best way, LinkedIn, just go Jonathan Sermon on LinkedIn. You'll see me wearing another blazer, another pocket square. There's a fabulous picture of Sydney Harbour taken by my wife on my profile as well. Reach out. Please let me, just when you connect with me on LinkedIn as well, put a little message. Don't just press connect. Then I know that you've heard of me through the podcast and we can chat accordingly. And that's a great LinkedIn lesson as well. Always give someone a reason that why you're connecting and how you heard of them.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Everybody definitely connect with John. He's a man with so many connections and just an amazing guy all around. So thank you, everyone, for watching, listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way we know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.